Welcome to Loleventvods. Watch the full game of today's LPL 2025 matchup.
He's been, and that was one of the things we were looking forward to coming in. I know Slayer's been talking about it every time we have on the show. He never gets to see this guy do the walkouts or have any fun from the LPL, and with Doinby kind of missing out on the last couple years of competition, we've had that kind of been usurped by Yukao, who just recently left us for DRX.
Back in the LCK, but it's okay. Because Doinby now returning to the LPL, first time competing since 22 with LNG, if I'm not mistaken. Man, well,
it's been a while. It's been a while.
The presence was missed, Doinby, and we're glad to have you back. And already off to a thundering start in such a dominant Game 1 fashion. We're right into picks and bans once again for second game of the series. And remember, since it is Fearless, all the 10 champions you saw in Game 1, completely gone, not available for the rest of the series. Ashe is the first priority pick picked up for FPX.
Oh, okay. And what I'm looking forward to here is, with the kind of Varus being taken away, we obviously had talked about the Ashe. The Jhin is there for the laning phase. I want to see, is FPX going to be willing to take the Orianna, especially with what we think of Kair's champion pool to be? He has definitely been more indexing towards the supportive champions, and you've got something like a Wukong, you always have to be afraid of it. Maybe this is another game for that Karma that we were talking about during the IG series.
I do like this takeaway of the Orianna denying NIP the paranoia ball delivery system with the shockwave, but it does make me question what FPX is going to be looking at for the rest of the composition. Now, Wukong, also a great ball delivery system, Cyclone, Shockwave, that is something that we've seen over the course of many years of League of Legends esports, but there's still support yet to be locked in, and there's still a top laner yet to be locked in for FPX. NIP, this Maokai, we've definitely seen it before, as it's a quite a nice flex pick that can go either jungle or support or top lane. With Nocturne already locked in, I imagine that this is going to be in Shanji's hands.
Yeah, it could also be for PP God. We've seen some people still pick up this champion, although, like you're saying, still there for the flex. So, interesting to note with the Gnar ban, we're going to see what that top lane pool starts to look like, especially with Jace and Cassante gone. I wonder if Shanji or Sheer are going to be feeling that Ambessa calling to them. Sheer, especially early on, was a very big adopter of this champion.
I don't know if FPX are going to want to put Sheer into a carry position, or if they want him to be on tank duty again, especially if the Maokai is going to be the choice that Shanji ends up sticking with. One thing I do want to kind of already tee up, we were hyped about leaving PP God off of the strength of their series against IG, and Leave being able to really surpass expectations once again, surviving and defying death multiple times on the Misfortune in Game 1. Jhin was the first time during that series against IG where I was really like, okay, Leave, I see you. This guy is kind of crap.
Yeah. Leave has always had some of those kind of moments, but it has been kind of marred by some of the other controversy that's been going on. So really want to see if Leaf can have a full split, a full year under his belt, where we get to see multiple incredible games from him. And now paired up with PP God, this is something that's been kind of exciting. Got MVP in this last game. We were talking about it during the break. I think with this duo, we'll see what they're able to do. Jhin and Rakan. So this NIP team really wants to follow in on Shanji. I think one more damage dealer coming in from the mid lane is going to definitely be necessary, as they have a great amount of engage, and being able to catch this FPX team is going to be a little bit difficult, especially if they have their flashes available, and this Renata, I think, makes it particularly difficult.
And the nice thing about both Rakan and Maokai, you already pointed out, they're great engage tools, but they're also great at dealing with dive. You pop the Maokai ultimate and you dissuade the rest of the FPX team being able to follow up on a Wukong Cyclone, and you can even sit on top of your AD carry or the rest of your backline if Doinby goes for like a traditional backline mage for his R5. Quickness, great way to just charm and just buy time. Now FPX, they're going with the Udyr for their top lane matchup into this Maokai. And oh boy, Alk, we're getting Doinby rise again.
Oh my god. And on a dime, this kind of feels like this shifts what the team is going to be able to do, especially when we talk about Jhin being able to grab lane priority versus this Ashe, I do expect for them to be looking to move out. On 2 and 3 items, this NIP team is going to be so dangerous, and with early drivers like how much utility a Maokai can provide, as well as someone like Nocturne, they do still have a lot of early skirmishing. This FPX team, though, so dangerous. You think about those first items for someone like an Ashe, a Wukong. I think that first fight can be massive for them, but it all takes a bunch of setup and going to be really tricky around vision, especially with a Nocturne.
Alec, I wanted to quickly look up some stats on Rise.
Give it to me.
Oh, dang. Uh-oh. Okay. Well,
Speak to me, brother. What do we got on Rise? What are you looking for?
I was trying to see if Doinby was the only person in the major regions to have played him, because then it would have been so cool to be like, Rise has only been picked X amount of times. They've only been played by Doinby. No, there's some other people that have played.
We got Angel.
Yeah, Angel played them once. So, okay, it kind of hurts the big hype up. But I don't want it to be understated that, Doinby is one of the only players, not the only, but one of the only players that is going back to this champion that a lot of players around the world have, just kind of left forgotten.
Yeah, it feels weird too, and I think it does come down to some of how team fights tend to work, how some of the early laning phase, like you think of like an Orianna, you think of Azir, these champions are going to naturally set up very big team fights, but Rise is a champion that kind of thrives at being able to be in long lanes, play around the map, play really fast around the map, similar to something like a Twisted Fate, which is why we also, I think, see players like Doinby and Angel gravitate towards those, them being, I think, pocket picks for these two guys.
Yeah, and it makes sense for how NIP have played their game so far in this first split, where if NIP get a lead, then Doinby is on a side lane creating so much pressure, and he seems totally independent and completely fine to navigate sticky situations on his own. But then the power of something like a Realm Warp just gives your team so much utility, and when you're playing against opponents that are not really used to playing against Rise after not seeing in the meta for quite some time, you forget instances where, like, let's say you're pushing up to a tier 2 turret, take that out, and then instantly, boom, Realm Warp to an objective, and suddenly the enemy team is scrambling to deal with waves that are pushed in while also trying to contest you on an objective.
This is why, for FPX, I think an early objective for them is seeing if they can contest early grubs. They have the Udyr into the Maokai matchup. We are expecting to see the Australian lane swap here of multiple different lanes going on through. As long as Sheer can hold his own, these early grubs are going to be so important for setting up those long lanes and having someone like Aki and Doinby be actually able to play the rest of the map here. And already we're getting a map split as this is just what you kind of do. You have a double range bottom lane, help your mid laner out, man.
And that is so heinous. Shanji takes the W just to make sure that they can set up an early flash burn off of Care. And now, for the next few minutes, Care cannot overextend in this lane, because then Doinby is going to flash empowered Rune Prison this guy, and then that sets up a kill for any other person that's in the area. So you might as well gift wrap a kill over to a Nocturne if he's, hovering around.
And look at what they're able to do here. Obviously, the wave not able to crash in time. Shanji is going to arrive a little bit late. Doesn't invest the teleport, which I think is a interesting choice. Typically, we've seen the top laners just go ahead and do that. But now we're getting the swap. You see that the junglers for NIP already in the top side clearing the rest of these camps and just protecting Leaf to be able to try to proxy another wave. Very big gold influx. I'm going to be interested yet again. We're talking about those early grubs spawning in a few minutes. That's kind of going to be key for NIP if they want extended lanes, and for FPX if they can kind of play long with this Ashe ultimate when it comes up.
PP God trying to see if he can stop the bases and the recalls from Jue and Bot. He successfully does so. Shanji's going to get a base off now, try to catch the wave coming into the top side, but as I say that, he cancels the base. Leaf is walking to bot lane. Do they
captive audience, maybe?
A 3v2?
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Deadly Flourish. Probably not in range yet. Immediate flash. Now he looks for it, but it's a little too late, but they've already gotten the summoner spells burned both out of Jue.
And all of this time, Sheer wasn't pushing up the wave. He didn't know if he was going to be allowed to do that, if it was going to be something that could be more of a fast push and then move into Fog of War, start hitting the turret. But now that he's invested, Shanji, without using the teleport, now can go back up towards his top lane, pick up this wave. And again, it's all about that early interaction. We're not seeing too much of it. And really, I think the flash being taken away from Care is making sure that when we get to those grubs, even the dragon that's spawning in 1 minute, that an Orianna without flash is going to be a target for them here.
Yeah. I'm curious how much of this early game was, like, distinctly planned by NIP, or how much of it was merely a reaction to what FPX were trying to set up as a flash from PP God. Forces bot's own flash.
Ooh. And I don't know. I feel like when we talk about lane swaps, typically a lot of it is about getting early vision as to where you can try to play around. I think with both teams opting into it, some of that does come with the knowledge of what you need to do in your individual lane matchups, whether you are the top lane or the bot lane pushing. So here for NIP now. I know we've been talking a lot about them, but this is going to have to be a series where we see them kind of take it handily, considering what their expectations pre-group kind of starting, and now that we're here with a win after IG and potentially ending out first here.
Yeah, considering that IG were pretty much the expected favorites of the group, them dropping a series already means that now NIP are one series victory away from clinching a spot into playoffs. And FPX, even though a loss in this series, oh, hang on, Doinby might be in trouble here.
Let's
but
go.
Phase rush for the movement speed and able to dodge the handshake with the flash. Yeah, comes at the cost of a summoner spell, but he's out alive.
Think about what they were able to grab from that, though. Not only is NIP starting the Dragon, but while Doinby did invest his flash, he still has a lot of HP. The same can't be said here for Care, who will have that flash coming up in about a minute, but no longer has teleport. And with Ryze being able to have access to ultimate, this does mean he can cheat a little bit and take his recall or look to move his team across the map. You kind of see that they were fading towards the bottom lane here, just providing cover and providing vision for their jungler, as I think this is still really smart here for NIP and even allows them to still contest for these early grubs if they want them.
It is at least a nice move from FPX to protect Care, knowing that it was getting dangerously close to a point where Care's flash, still not available, could have been completely taken advantage of by Doinby and Aki now that he has a few more levels under his belt and more lethality and ability to actually try and lock down this Orianna and look for a first blood kill situation. Now that threat is not as potent since you don't have a flash-empowered Rune Prison to set up that kill.
Ooh, are they looking for something? Doinby is on the way. You see that he's moving. Let's see. The Hawkshot does notice this, so you're going to see a fight here.
Nice use of the ultimates, both from Shanji and Aki. Dinks level 6, so lights have been turned out. Jway just walks back into the waiting arms of NIP so that the rest of his team can walk out safely, but it is first blood for NIP.
How much damage can FPX get on the bottom side, though? You see Udyr starting to split. They're going for the dive.
Realm Warp, and Shanji takes up the turret aggro. It's actually Doinby that's taken up as the turret now ramps up, but Doinby dodges and dips out of it. Now it's on to Shanji, but he dodges it with the twisted advance. And they're going to drop the turret aggro as they cannot get enough damage onto Shadow, but NIP got more than what they bargained for.
Wow, I thought we were seeing some more Naruto here. There's that Shadow clone was doing so much work. They were all hitting it thinking it was the real deal. He's able to slink out under the turret. But a great dive there for NIP. Does get them 2 kills, closer to the feat of strength that would be allowing that for them. And seems like Udyr was able to get just a little bit of damage down onto that bot side, again, with those early grubs that FPX were able to grab. As the rest of this fight, I mean, yeah, bot still the Nature's Grass tagging onto the Renata, kind of feeling a bit bad there, but you think about what they're able to get on the backside there, I think this is more of a setup for NIP in the next few minutes.
And this is what we were really expecting to see with this Ryze pick. It just enables NIP to play so aggressive and so fast, and it just does not give FPX any breathing room. I think they definitely are grateful that Shadow doesn't fall in to that dive catastrophe as well, because otherwise you would have had 3 kills for NIP, a majority of your carries and the people that you want to get accelerated now decelerated, and it just sets up NIP for a stronger map state. But at least now that Shadow survived that, he's got some contestability coming up on the next objectives.
I also like that now it allows for NIP to really direct the map where they want to. We've been talking about Aki on this Nocturne, if he's able to continue this level of aggressiveness where he's able to control parts of the map, anytime you walk up, you're not sure if there's going to be maybe 2 extra members there. Him and Doin being able to kind of lead the map wherever they will go is, I think, a great sign for how NIP can drive games going further into the season. So we see already Shadow going for an early invade, taking a red buff, and Aki doesn't quite know it's gone. Doinby doesn't have the ultimate, but Care is also matching.
Good use of the smite. Shadow gonna use the Trickster to walk
Shanji.
over. Oh, but Shanji's there to block his path. That forces Shadow's flash. Nature's Grasp on the hunt here.
Oh, he gets tagged?
And he gets the Twisted Advance right on the back end of it. And oh no, Shadow thought that he could survive, but NIP's just got too many tools to lock him down.
Is Shanji just the Maokai, like, avatar? He keeps bending it like Beckham around these guys. First it was that top lane play around Renata, and now he's able to still clip Shadow. That just seems like a small bit of miscalculation from FPX instead of NIP really outplaying. That should have just been the both of them getting out. It turns into a kill. Now they still have access for top side. 45 seconds before those grubs, and there's going to be key ultimates missing here for both teams. Whatever we're going to see a contest for that or try to continue to get plates.
Yeah, so you can see that Shear's trying to tank up the Maokai ultimate so that he escapes.
There's one, and he doesn't get the other one.
Oh, no.
Dude! Now, as a jungler, you know what it's like for your top laner to unfortunately grief you. He didn't do it on purpose, but, you know, I've done this a couple times for you.
You could at least see the thought process was there, and he didn't intentionally let it go through. He even used the Awaken E stance so that he doesn't himself get rooted up, but at least he tanks the roots. But
maybe he got Z-axis. That could also be because that's the ramp going up into topside. Many such cases. We're going to have a League Ops investigate that at another time, as we have the setup.
Z-axis.
Yep, PP God getting chunked here, though, will mean that FPX control this side of the river, and 6 grubs. Again, that was the win condition that we wanted to see from NIP if they wanted to have early dominance with the composition they have.
Big thing, though, Aki just dinged the first item power spike for himself, so he's very strong. There's no flash for Shadow, so if NIP want to send it, as long as Shadow oversteps his welcome here on these grubs, they can call for it. Teleport is already coming in for both teams. Shanji has the ultimate ready, looking for a pincer maneuver, waiting for them to overextend just enough. Lights have been turned out, leave ready, and waiting to pincer as well. Shanji's in, Aki dives onto bot, forces him to flash away and reposition. Aki might have overextended now his own welcome, and he's gonna get completely zoned off by Sheer, but the rest of NIP have full control of the river. They're forcing FPX to fall one by one, as now Sheer is left to his own devices in a 1v2, trying to run away, but Shanji locks him down once again with a Twisted Advance, pushes him back with the brand.
What is going on, man?
Hang on, Udyr still surviving, barely surviving the last bullet. FPX grateful that the top laner being able to pull out more than what they should have gotten, but NIP still control of the river.
What is this series, man? This is just getting wacky. It's getting wild. We're seeing some, not the cleanest team fighting here. NIP and FPX are just getting down in the mud, man. They're just wanting to go for fights. As we talked about it, setting up for the early grubs, it was 4 going over to FPX and a full reset, but everyone is just completely isolated. Usually when we look at the Nocturne ultimate, it's about that disorientation from not being able to have any more vision, but you see this Renata ult doesn't really get onto many of the members of NIP. This is a really well-split fight by what NIP were able to accomplish, and now with Doinby just kind of teleporting right into the back line, it's just all over the place. There's no coordination coming in from FPX.
I am just now realizing that I was so enamored with whether NIP was going to kill Sheer that Doinby had just completely obliterated the backline off of the teleport in. He's just living the best time of his life once again. I mean, this is the power of something like a Rise where, as we said before, Alk, if you don't play against this champion regularly, especially in pro play, you forget what kind of access that this champion can get.
Yeah, especially with all the new items. For a while there, Rise was kind of an untouchable state, but now with probably the addition of Fearless Draft, but also the itemization, having stuff like the Cosmic Drive that has been buffed so many times, stuff like the Rod of Ages now, and Seraph's, how popular this item is. He's definitely getting to old Rise levels, so we'll see what Doinby's able to accomplish here, as kind of looking at where this game is now, FPX were able to finish those last 3 grubs, so they were able to get all that second camp. This next dragon, or this herald that's spawning, could be a feat of strength for them, and then you think about them being able to actually hit turrets, but NIP, again, such strong control of the map right now with how fed Aki is getting, and especially with Doinby, that ultimate is up yet again. He's going to be getting really close to level 11, and that opens such more of the map.
And I imagine that that's just going to be the game plan for NIP as they continue into this mid game. Very similar to what we saw in the early stages of the first 13 minutes, where as soon as Paranoia and Realm Warp are available and someone is slightly overextended on a side lane, instant Avengers signal. Boom, boom, boom. Everyone is just gunning them down. But for FPX, being able to still maintain a small goal deficit rather than one that it could have ballooned so large like we saw in game 1 is pretty remarkable. And I think for 6 Void Grubs being secured, not all of these champions are going to get full benefit splitting in a side lane, except for Sheer's Udyr.
And Sheer, look, Udyr is a very potent side laner, so wouldn't be surprised if we have situations where NIP are going to try to overforce onto the Udyr side, then Udyr makes it out with like 100 HP, FPX can play the other side of the map. We'll see if that's going to be the case. I think that would be a lot of fun. We'd get a lot of yakety sacks going on, especially with the Maokai in the side lane. He's not going to be the person that really is able to match all that often, so whatever vision, whatever information Sheer can grab while he is here is going to be really important. And again, we're talking about, for FPX, the way that their team wants to operate is get into an objective first, set up with the Orianna, and look to make a turn either with Jway or with this Ashe ultimate.
Yeah, because you'd rather be in the pit and fight with the rest of your team versus trying to fight through darkness.
The sneaky
big
wards!
teleport. Here comes the Avengers signals. Let's see how many join the cause here. PP God is trying to lead the charge and at least burn some of these ultimates, but Shanji now behind them all, looking for care.
Doinby's caught!
Tries to break open the fight, but wait a minute, Doinby just gets chain CC'd. The Rise Mage is gone. FPX, they completely deny and nullify NIP's engage.
Small disadvantage, but this entire time, Aki's been hitting the bottom, the mid-tier one. They're not able to get it in time. It's first turret going over to FPX. Aki was nowhere near that play. When we saw Shanji start to teleport, he was still in the bottom side jungle. He was taking enemy red buff. So if he was envisioned with, I mean, level 10, the ultimate range is not that long. He should have been able to be there just a little bit sooner, and maybe that turns, but now they lose out on Doinby. He still has teleport, so he will be available for this, and he's going to immediately be here. They know that they want to try to grab this early Rift Herald.
They want to try again, at least getting the prio through the top side, as you mentioned. Sheer is forced to walk away. Shadow did manage to get a base off. Will be returning.
Oh no,
from the
Jway!
Nexus. Oh, Jway might have overextended. Did flash, but now he can't walk in as safely without any summoner spells, and it should seem like that this Rift Herald will go over to NIP.
Feats of Strength as well going over to the Ninjas in Pyjamas. So getting some boot upgrades, which I know we've kind of been talking about them ever since they were introduced, but super potent with what Doinby has. I mean, even if you want to get the upgraded Lucidity boots, just so many different interactions, and especially the amount of movement speed that you have access to. All these little things are going to add up as we get closer. We were talking for NIP, 2-3 items. This team really starts to come online, and we're getting closer and closer to that point. As good replay of this last fight. Again, look at where Aki is on the map right now. Nowhere near this play, and it does open up great counter from Shadow. He's able to completely negate PP God in this fight.
As we mentioned before, you know, a lot of these tools are great for disengage on the side of NIP. So is Cyclone. If you're just trying to peel and not actually be the aggressor, Cyclone just pretty much stiffs any person trying to dive into the backline, and as Doinby overextends for the play, and FPX punish accordingly.
Oh, man. So close for FPX. I know you said earlier, look, you look at the gold lead right now. We've been talking a lot about for NIP, and here for FPX, they are holding on, and with them grabbing purchase of this mid lane, or of this river, they wanted to be in position for the dragon, but I don't know if you needed to give this up. It's a herald, the turret's already going to go down. You want to be the team that NIP walks into. You don't want it to try to go into this blind. You don't even have Ashe ultimate anymore. I think you just have to push down mid or look towards the side lane at this point.
Aki is trying to position through the mid lane so that he can get a jump on with the Paranoia on the left flank and just cause disruption that way. But as you pointed out, an FPX momentarily ceded control of the river, but it wasn't enough for NIP to take full control. As now I think the play for NIP is just try and play for mid-wave, take down the turret. A Paranoia, hang on, Jazaki now joined the fight, curtain call. But look where Doinby has arrived to the Realm War, but Shadow is now just trying to completely annihilate Leave. He does so beautifully, flashes over the wall, completely separates himself from Doinby as he now chases for another. And Shanji, because he's got no damage dealers, he is now just going to get burned down by the backline. FPX completely putting NIP in disarray, and the rest of NIP, I think they just got their pants pulled down. FPX just handled every single threat one by one.
What is going on in this game? We had some worries about what this Udyr was going to do, but NIP just completely biffed the entire team fight there. I mean, Leave, the target acquisition was just not on point for this Jhin. Doinby nowhere near the start of this fight. I thought they were going to continue with the side lane play of giving up this dragon and taking the mid-tier one as well as the bottom tier one, but they don't even get either turret, and then they fail the team fight. They're giving FPX a way back into this game.
This is so huge for FPX, because when we look at the series against RNG, you saw moments of brilliance before, unfortunately it being thrown away, but when we look at this replay and just how well FPX were able to navigate this fight, they knew that off of the arrow engage, Leave has no cleanse in this fight, and Shadow says, good luck bot lane, I'm going to take out Leave.
Great job from Shadow. Honestly, this game, we had some question marks of what Shadow was going to be able to do in a series where he's finally joined this team over Sorrow. And so far, I think he's been delivering on some of the champions that we do know him for famously. So good to see. We'll see how that develops as the series goes on. But this could be the start of FPX being able to take a game off of NIP. And let's just talk about this Group D while we have a moment here. This has been one of the wackiest groups, obviously starting off with the NIP upset over IG, and then even the IG RNG series. RNG's performance in general versus FPX, I think there's so much that could potentially go on if we get a much spicier expectation than what we were thinking of coming into the series.
And if FPX are able to carry this momentum forward and really just punish a lot of NIP's, I don't know how to describe it, Alk, but when we saw it in the IG series, there's just maybe a lack of respect on how to properly contest objectives in some certain scenarios. I didn't think FPX was going to be a team that would be able to punish, but maybe with Shadow in the lineup, it's giving them enough creativity and just the experience that Shadow does have from playing, you know, on teams like Mad Lions in the past. He's recognizing, hey, you know what? If the team is split up like this, I'm just going to go for one of the threats that is completely isolated.
He's always been a player that I think has really thrived when you have those engage metas. I always think of his Viego, some of his Lee Sin games especially, just that want to go forward and find the enemy backline. His ability to kind of pierce through that has always been really good. So a champion like Wukong, definitely disruptive, and with the champions that are there, while Ryze is not necessarily what we're looking for, this is a lethality Jhin, especially. So he does have a lot of damage, but he is incredibly kind of paper light versus you. So you have the Ashe. Oh, we're doing an immediately turn. What?
Paranoia,
nice.
Right onto the target of FPX, and good night care. Just a little too isolated, but here comes the rest of the cavalry of FPX. Maybe they can
wait a
turn it
minute!
around.
No!
Hostile take the Realm War from Doinby says nope. They get out of the engage, and now they can re-engage on their own terms when they've got a sniper in the crow's nest on the far right side of the Baron Pit, raining hell down on the FPX. Fly, Phoenix, fly back into the ground as the ashes scatter the river.
It's a voracious Otacon that's already half-baked for them. NIP, with what was looking like a slightly botched fight from them, are able to turn it on a dime from their star mid laners, Key Ultimate. Right at the very last moment where it's possible for the Renata ult to hit, NIP are able to escape. What?
That was crazy, man. I'm not gonna say anything.
Like, I get it, right?
Watch what happened.
Yeah, so they obviously know, okay, there's only these two with the Nocturne ultimate as well, makes it difficult to turn. They didn't think that Sheer and Jway would be here, and I want to see this timing. The Realm Warp change, the ultimate here, while Jway flashes. They literally get out at the very last moment, no taunt, and then the TP from behind with Shanji here to be able to set up. Bot's in the worst position possible for where this fight goes out. I feel bad for him. This looks, that's got to be like a backbreaker. Just mentally, you're like, oh, this is such a good fight for us.
Literally 1 frame before the hostile takeover projectile reaches Doinby and would have canceled the Realm Warp. Could have been a completely different story, but we're not living in that universe, Alk. We're living in the timeline where NIP just pulled off probably the most BS thing I've ever seen in a hot minute. But man, oh man, that is the Doinby Rise experience for you.
This was kind of the mid matchup that we wanted to see. How much impact were they going to have in a series? Care traditionally has been someone who's kind of shied away from some of that spotlight, especially when we're talking about last year's FPX iteration. And Doinby always feels like a large voice, especially with how boisterous he is. We're getting an actual fight here as Rise comes on through with the teleport.
Doinby returns, Shockwave does paperweight damage, and he's going to Realm Warp to try and see if he can cut off Shadow as well, but Shadow does manage to clear enough distance, will escape the grasp of NIP.
Puts them at soul point, and this feels like it is the game turning here. Aki goes forward. That's just the AD carry experience, man. You stepped up to farm Raptors, wrong side of the jungle, man.
And that statement you made, Alk, that Realm Warp, dodging the hostile takeover, just breaking the momentum of FPX is starting to ring even more true, as some of these plays are just starting to seem a little careless, and it does tend to happen when the morale is starting to dwindle on the side of FPX, as they manage to at least hold the tier 2 turret in the mid lane, but it just seems like NIP, another punch, and just completely wearing down FPX.
These items are starting to get completed, and we didn't talk about too much about the feat of strengths, but now that these boots have gone, kind of started to get picked up, already we're seeing some defensive items. So Sheer, Care, they're going to be doing a lot less damage when you look at this extra shield that Doinby and Shanji are going to have. So they're getting that much more tanky. You're already lacking the damage, I think, in a lot of instances, so it's not going to get any easier here for FPX. They need to be able to find Enchanted Crystal Arrows onto good targets. We haven't seen that kind of synchronization between the damage dealers and the crowd control units here for FPX. So maybe if that's able to kind of get in line, they can start to claw back into this game, because they only have a few minutes before it gets really out of hand.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to how well they can contest NIP at that soul point. Thankfully for them, they don't have to worry about that for at least another 3 minutes, but it just gives NIP more time to slowly push up this vision line further and further into the encroaches of their bottom side jungle. And NIP, if they want to, they have a decent enough gold lead where they can just completely darken the top side of the map. Just pull Baron and just see what happens with FPX. And if they overstep too far forward, I mean, you have so many engage tools on the side of NIP to just run it down at FPX.
Mark, I'm scared. Oh, they're using the ultimate. They want to try to make a play. Oh, Aki, you're too far up.
Uh-oh. Okay, well, that's a flash, and Shadow's going to follow on through. Shanji trying to body block as much as he can.
Here.
And Aki does escape the hostile takeover, and Shanji, thankfully, he is a big tree, so he doesn't care about any of the damage that FPX threw his way. Curtain call kind of tickles the FPX, not going to lie, but they did their job in just making sure that Aki got out alive.
Missing some summoner spells, but ultimates are not going to be here, and Aki's flash, so if they're able to catch this Nocturne, maybe it opens them up for a play. Baron is on the table. You do have the Dragon that's spawning in too. Maybe FPX are feeling themselves. A single ward there in the pip replay shows how this fight started. Gotta be so careful. I think with the Baron, though, you have 6 grubs. I think you need to be able to pull them now that you no longer have the Rise ultimate. No longer Shanji having this. I think you have to pull something as FPX. Otherwise, the game is going to continue to snowball out of control.
Yeah, this is one window where there's no global tools from the side of NIP to really punish and try and collapse on you fast enough, right? So I'm in the same boat with you, but it's so hard, especially when one of your main damage dealers is now down without a flash. He's got to be careful about how he's stepping far up and how he is positioning himself. And it just doesn't seem like FPX are going to have enough time to really set that up from happening. We're only a minute and a half away from Soul Point spawning.
I feel like that story beat of FPX not really quite ready yet, especially with how young some of these teams have been, or these players have been. I mean, talking about Sheer, a really exciting rookie coming in from last year on JDG, Bot getting the move up. Exciting stuff, but this definitely feels like a team that is looking for a split 2. And to be fair, we kind of said like we didn't know who was going to have the second seed coming into this. Now with NIP and IG rocking, we'll see how that looks. For FPX, even if they're not able to win this game, there's still some exciting stuff that we got from earlier series and even Demacia Cup. So I want to see what more and more games with this team looks like as we go further in the season.
Yeah, sometimes the best way to learn is just be thrown into the fire as FPX, and
it's the format, man.
Yeah, it's a very unforgiving format. You literally have 2 series to really make a difference, to have a huge impact in the group. If you don't win any of those 2 series, it is damn near impossible to still escape the group.
Unless you have a freak group. There has to be like a really freak group accident that goes on, but yeah, it's two losses is basically you're done. 1 loss is already pretty tough, and you play 3 best of 5s. That's it for the first part of the season. You're back in March, which is great and all, but still a pretty big time. As you see NIP taking control of the bottom side, they know 10 seconds before this dragon. If anything, they can look for a pick in mid, try to move on over. Dornby's already preemptively teleporting for this. They can go to any side lane they want now. Remember, level 17 on this Rise. Realm Warp has a huge amount of distance it can cross.
And they're already just burning the dragon as fast as possible. Shadow is trying to walk through the fog of wars to see if he can maybe get into the pit, but PP denies him by knocking him up right before he got to the wall. The arrow stops the curtain call in its tracks, but I don't think any NIP was getting any more off of that engage. The soul point secured. That's all they wanted.
NIP cannot allow them, or sorry, FPX cannot allow NIP to cross this side of the river. If they do, they're going to have to use the Rise ultimate for it. They need control of this top side of the river. If they give over the Baron with the Infernal Soul, I think it's already been lights out. FPX have to pull something. They have to look for a fight now that this Nocturne ultimate is no longer available.
And there's no Maokai ultimate either, so in terms of engage tools, it's really just on PP God and Realm Warp from Doinby to find an angle here. But the Baron is not burning down fast enough. Aki
here we go, no one's there.
And they're looking for the pincer. Shanji leads the charge. Sheer trying to dissuade them from walking any further.
Shadow!
Aki, oh, wait a minute, Shadow sends it with the
Baron!
Trying to see if he can break the line, but Shadow falls. And if the Monkey King is gone, I don't think there's any hope for the remaining Phoenix members. FPX starting to fall one by one as Sheer is isolated by NIP once again. Paranoia is accessible once again for Aki as he takes off the lights from every single member left on the Rift. FPX completely aced, and NIP, this game is theirs.
That's a soul. It's going to be Baron. Some of the early game was looking kind of wary there for NIP, but they get it done in a team fight. The Rise ultimate being such a large bait for this team, being a distraction there, just sets up the rest of the team. I will say, as much as we've been talking about this mid-jungle duo, PP God has had a pretty good series so far with some minor corrections needed. He has been so great here, and as we get into this fight, I mean, there's no Ashe ultimate available anymore. Shadow, this engage is great, but look at the rest of your team as Ashe is not being able to deal any damage here. You get the flash from Sheer, but PP God is just rooting everybody. I thought this Baron was going to take out Leave.
That is so crazy that Leave survived. He was literally on double-digit HP, and somehow just a little bit of the healing. I don't even know what the healing was from, but he just managed to survive it all. And everyone had committed so hard into that engage. It's hard to escape.
Ooh, and he has the upgraded swiftness boost, so getting so much movement speed. This is the fast Jhin build here coming on through. I mean, you've got Baron. They can play on side. You already see that Aki and Leave are sitting in the shadows. They're starting to clear vision. Anyone that steps up even close to this turret, you can have a Nocturne and a Jhin ult that you can't even see coming. So lots of damage on a side lane now. They can play on 2 waves. Such big map control, kind of playing the big picture here from NIP as FPX are going to have to watch as the rest of this game crumbles around them.
Yep, they're going to open up the siege by using the curtain call. Decent chunk on the Jway. Kair is also losing a lot of HP, down below 50%. Shanji just opening up even further with the Maokai ultimate. This just gives freedom for NIP to walk in through the bot side of the map. Inhibitor turret, gone. Inhibitors both in mid lane and bot lane, gone.
Ooh, hey, can we get it? Hey, we got another inhibitor, okay. Yeah, let's just see what the victory lap here for NIP is. I want to see how they're able to close this out, kind of similar to last game. And I know we've been getting some slower ends, but with such an explosive fight, you still have Baron for another minute. We have the Elder that's spawning in 2.5. I think in between that time, there should be a big enough fight here for NIP. And again, you have the Rise ultimate. You can just drop an entire minion wave into their base for all you care.
Dude, that would be pretty funny. I'm not gonna
Baron
lie.
up minion wave as well if they're able to take control through mid. You know.
Yeah, I mean, he can accelerate the siege process of this top wave, but he's got to wait for the rest of NIP to get in position first before he just fully sends it. But then again, this is Doinby we're talking about. We've seen stranger events occur when he
has
is...
1 million items, man. Look at how much HP he has. This guy is not dying ever, and he does 1 million damage. Like, you're never actually going to be able to take down this Rise from this position. They're using even Shanji's ult, like we were saying earlier, just to make sure they can grab this. Full court press here. Another minion wave arriving in mid. You've got 8 seconds, so no more Baron.
Arrow goes wide. Wait a minute. Leave stepped a little too far forward. He's taken out of the picture here. Maybe
there's
NIP.
Aki.
This is a fight that has gone a little too sour. Shadow finds PP God, and suddenly, even though Aki trades on the bat, Care and Shadow are still trying to fight their way through this fight. Sheer doing the damnedest he can on the Udyr. Maybe he'll get one back onto Doinby, but can he deal with the rest of NIP? That is going to be the question. Aki cannot step up forward, and FPX's solo laners might have just bought them enough time to live to see another day, but they cannot protect the inhibitor, and these Nexus towers are under fire. Shanji
does no damage!
Dude, Sheer and Care can't actually take out this Maokai, man. He's just healing and sustaining through it all. They protect the Nexus towers for now, but now you've got double super minions pouring through every single lane.
This feels like you got the big mech pilots, right? Like, you have this huge Udyr who's going to be a drain tank sitting in the back line, but once you get to the insides, there's just no way that the rest of the team can operate. You see, with this ultimate from Aki, the backline is completely threatened. Ashe gets blown up into this fight alongside someone like Doin being able to hold on the front line. It's great to see that FPX are able to fight back, but think about how much it costs them. Their base is in tatters.
It is pretty much one fight away from closing out on the side of NIP. And now with the Elder Dragon spawn, FPX are forced to
Shadow
leave the
dead?
base. They have to
Oh,
contest
no!
it. No, this is not where Shadow wants to be. Care gets a decent shockwave to follow up, but no one falls from the side of NIP. No jungler, no AD carry, just down to your solo laners and your support, and that's not a recipe for success at all. It's FPX. Good night to both Jway and Care as they get sniped off, and now it's just the last Udyr on the side, but he's not going to do anything. At least not enough to stop NIP from pouring into this base, and it's all open season for NIP. GG, well played once again. Another dominant victory where it looked closer for FPX, but somehow, someway, NIP arrives all the same. 2-0, they lead the series.
They play around the map consistently.